Well, hi there, everybody. This is Matt Jensen, and we are live from Ophthalmology Management. We'd like to thank all of our friends over at Ophthalmology Management for helping us put together today's session where we're talking about the light adjustable lens. And as I said, my name is Matt Jensen. I'm a consultant in practice development and the patient experience. And I'm here with my friend, longtime colleague, Dr. Vance Thompson from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Hey, Vance.
Hi, Matt, and hi, everybody.
We're excited to be talking to you today about some of the greatest innovation, I think, that's happened in healthcare, really in our lifetime. The ability to customize your vision after surgery. Every patient having an outcome that's really completely unique to them. And Vance, you've been doing this for a long time in your program. Just maybe give us a little 1 minute, 2 minute overview of your experience going back to the beginning with the light adjustable lens.
Well, I had the honor of being one of the FDA monitored investigators for this technology, and so have really watched it grow up. And being a refractive surgeon who is focused on cornea refractive, phakic IOL, and lens replacement, refractive outcomes have been, something that, I've worked really hard on, and have a practice that a lot of the patients are going for spectacle independence as much as possible. And dealing with, choosing the right corneas to operate on and all the diagnostics that is involved with. When I first had the honor of adjusting a polymer at the optic inside the eye and seeing how that minimized a lot of the biologic, variabilities, that come along with a lot of other refractive surgeries, and seeing the accuracy, it absolutely blew me away. And so being in the trial was an honor, but what's been even more exciting was to see it translate post FDA approval to become an important part of the foundation of our program. And every serious practice that is involved in really wanting to, satisfy their patients with refractive outcomes, this is a game changer and a must.
Well, you always taught me, Vance, when we were working together in the practice, though we still work together very closely on patient communications, that cataract surgery is really refractive surgery. And never has that come to a point more than with the technology from RxSight, the light adjustable lens. Let's get into some technical work now. We hear a lot about the capabilities of the light adjustable lens, and we hear things like blended vision. And how people are using that for various uses in their actual daily living, right? And yet some kind of put this in a corner like it's monovision. Tell me about the difference, and what is it like in your hands with your patients?
Well, first of all, monovision in and of itself is something that's very understood by eye care practitioners and patients alike. And so even just monovision has a high rate of success, but not as high of rate of success as the blended vision that we get when we're working with the light adjustable lens. And I think one of the things to think about with monovision is it's really, in general, one focal point. You're trying to create, with a monofocal implant, one focal point at distance, and in the other eye, one focal point at near. And with blended vision, it's more like a range. You're getting, even though your emphasis is at distance, you're also getting a pretty decent intermediate and oftentimes even near range with your distance eye. And the reason that happens is the light adjustable lens has a beautiful aberration profile. And so in general, it's easier to line up two ranges than it is two focal points. And so as a result, and I'll even compare with monovision, when an eye care practitioner is doing monovision for a 42-year-old, we all know we're going for plano at a distance, but in that near eye, oftentimes minus 0.75 is good, and the patient's happy, high rate of patient satisfaction. But as that presbyopia progresses and you have to blur the distance eye more, it gets harder to have stereopsis. It affects their depth perception. And so the patient dissatisfaction increases. And that's why so many people drop out of monovision in their 50s and 60s. Well, when you're replacing someone's natural lens with a monofocal implant and you want to try monovision, you're trying to take someone that now has the reading range of a 75-year-old and give them one distance and one near focal point. You have two eyes and you have three distances to think about in this day and age: distance, computer, and cell phone. So monovision not only misses one distance, it's hard to make the patient comfortable with a high rate of success with monofocal monovision. Whereas with the light adjustable lens, we're oftentimes with one eye plano and one eye minus 0.75, getting beautiful functionality at all three distances: distance, intermediate, and near. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons that blended vision has such a high rate of success. It's almost like that little bit of monovision that we had such a great success at that 42-year-old presbyopic range. And so that extended depth of focus that's in the LAL, such a high rate of patient satisfaction with blended vision.
Yeah, so that's a really important distinction, Vance. And I want to come out even more clearly with it, just in one sentence or one question for you. Is monovision blended vision? Yes or no?
Yeah, so monovision by definition is not blended vision because it's two distinct focal points. And so there's many occupations that we can't do that because the reduced depth perception, the reduced stereopsis. And remember, the highest form of nighttime glare is when you take that reading eye in traditional monovision and you look at a distance at night. It's a ton of nighttime glare and halo. And so the whole beauty of blended vision is that little bit of myopia is very well tolerated at night.
You know, and there's a lot of people, like you mentioned, who in the past, whether with glasses or contact lenses, maybe they've tried some version of monovision or mini monovision. Are those folks, when they come in to your clinic to learn more and you're educating them about the light adjustable lens, are they candidates perhaps for blended vision when maybe they'd have a visceral response to monovision?
Well, you know what's so beautiful about this lens is, the short answer is yes, they are candidates. But we get to have them rest easy about the ultimate outcome because we get to work with that post-operatively. And so we get to, show them with monofocal monovision, you're going to be going for, 20/20 distance in one eye, and you're going to have quite blurry distance in the reading eye. With blended vision, with the light adjustable lens, we not only don't have to do that, we get to show them their various options post-operatively. And so let's say they have short arms, and they maybe read a little bit closer than the average patient. Every other implant on Mother Earth, Matt, is fully polymerized when you put it in that patient's eye. So the optics, the patient has to adjust to, no matter what their occupation is, no matter what their, body habitus is. Whereas with this lens, we get to, in general, tell them we have such good luck with blended vision with one eye plano and one eye minus 0.75 to minus 1 myopia. We have such good results with that, but we get to show you this post-operatively. And not only that, we're going to make these adjustments and you get to live with that for a little bit, and you get to tell us what's working for you at work, and we can adjust it again. And you can get to tell us what's working at work, and then we take that football in for the touchdown with that final adjustment, with our goal being that you love it, and then we lock it in. So having that flexibility to adjust the optic to the patient versus having the patient have to adjust to the optic is what's so powerful about this technology. And I'm not talking just its refractive endpoint being the most accurate implant on Mother Earth without even a close second, but the fact that we get this aberration profile that they get to experience postoperatively also, as we, in combination with that, find that perfect refractive endpoint for them.
You know, Vance, you really keyed in on something, and you're so good at these lines that I think doctors and staff members who are watching will hold on to. But you said you like, maybe I can have you say it again. You like to have the lens adjust to the patient, not the patient adjust to, or the optics adjust to the patient, not the patient adjust to the optics. Did I say that right?
Well, not only did you say that right, but I knew that you would love that, because it's the ultimate in serving your patient and achieving their goals. And it takes so much pressure off of them preoperatively to explain to them that it's the only implant on Mother Earth that we can adjust to you versus vice versa.
Yeah. So so as others are worried maybe about how they're going to talk about monovision or blended vision or whatever, you almost don't need to worry about that, because you're just going to put the patient in the driver's seat to decide for themselves.
That's exactly right, Matt. And I think what also comforts doctors and patients about this is our natural optical system is not monofocal. Our natural optical system is an extended depth of focus system. And the aberration that it uses is spherical aberration. And you find with a lot of other, optics out there, there's other aberrations being used, but the LAL using something that we're so comfortable with, that's a part of our natural optical system, with spherical aberration used to extend depth of focus like we do naturally, I believe is one of the reasons people adjust to it so well.
It makes me think about the very technical piece of how you walk the patient through each of the steps. So what I'm wanting to know, Vance, is as you think about a specific patient, can you explain how the customization of the lens through a series of visits can give that customization in blended vision? Where do you start from? And then where does it typically go from there over those visits?
Well, it always starts with the pre-op, education and getting to know the patient. And so, when I'm working with a truck driver who's doing a lot of, nighttime driving, or a policeman who, works a lot in low light, conditions, or I'm working with a, perfectionist engineer. Yeah, all those situations are situations where, other premium implants, I have to be a little bit careful about reduced contrast sensitivity. And the LAL has brought to my practice just such a beautiful option for those types of situations. Another situation is because I call all other implants cornea adjustable implants. And since we know cataract surgery, because of the effective lens position varying and because of the incisional healing, the refractive endpoint is just not even close to what, for instance, LASIK is. But one of the reasons that this implant achieves LASIK-like outcomes is because we can adjust the optic. And because of that, not only does it include a whole patient population that, maybe was afraid of reduced contrast sensitivity or are more perfectionistic, but it also includes that patient population whose cornea probably shouldn't be adjusted, or they have a dry eye that they don't want to have it made worse. My point being, it really expands the base of the number of patients that we can serve in our practice. And so that's why I say it starts with the pre-op education. And I could go on and on about that, by the way.
Yeah.
And then the beauty of it intraoperatively, it's a surgery that, all doctors are comfortable with. And postoperatively, even a lot of doctors who don't do corneal refractive adjustments, they find that putting a patient up to the light delivery device, that's a slit lamp delivery system, is just, like using, for instance, their slit lamp or their YAG laser, and using their focusing lens. And so it's all intuitive. So really it gets down to, how am I going to achieve this refractive endpoint in these visits that you're talking about, Matt? And that's what's, we're all trained to do that refraction and to show them binocularly, this is how distance and near can feel, to show them their options, put that into the light delivery device, and then deliver it. The whole point of this is the simplicity and the fact that it moves that decision to postoperatively.
So they can walk it around a little bit, right? And
Yep.
see in real time. As far as that first postoperative visit, Vance, you're shooting for what correction to start the journey postoperatively with?
Well, I'm really trying to nail that distance eye to plano, and
Okay.
then that eye that I'm going for, that little bit more EDOF. Ultimately, I'm trying to go for a refractive endpoint that's at least minus 0.5. But I want to approach it from the hyperopic side because we've been able to show that we get a little bit more extended depth of focus benefit when we approach it from the hyperopic side. So in general, I'm going for plano in both eyes. And then I'm going to dial in a refractive target of at least minus 0.5. So I'm approaching it from the hyperopic side. And if you have someone that, let's say they have, do have shorter arms, and they have been used to maybe a little closer near image, you can start to, play with that, refractive goal and go for a little bit more myopia. Because of this aberration profile, though, I think that what's so beautiful about it is I even have ranchers that come in and say, I don't care about readers. I just like the idea of this lens. Just bang me out to a distance and I'll wear readers. And they come walking in and we're all done. And they're like, ha, you told me I was going to need readers and I don't need them. And I'm doing just great, doc. So this aberration profile is quite impressive. And it's what gives doctors the confidence of not having to go for the amount of myopia that they needed to with monofocal monovision. And that's why so many of these patients like it, that subtle difference of about minus 0.75, sometimes minus 1 between the two eyes is making the patient really happy. And remember, when you have an aberration profile, that minus 0.75 or minus 1 of myopia is helping them, read quite impressively, almost like they're getting 2.25 or 2.5 of near help. But you have to listen carefully. That same spherical aberration profile that is rather symmetrical when you look at these depth of focus curves, the minus 1 patient in their distance eye is oftentimes seeing 20/25. Yeah, in their near eye is oftentimes seeing 20/25 at a distance. And so the aberration profile helps distance and near. So when you're doing a bunch of blended vision patients that are 20/20 and 20/25, you can imagine that's way easier than a monofocal monovision patient where you have 20/20 in one eye, 2100 at a distance, or 20/70 at a distance to try to get a near eye. And so that's the major difference. The aberration profile helps on both the distance and the near end.
Vance, it seems like with all of these points you're making, we could do a whole additional talk on them when you're talking about corneal adjustment technology, et cetera. So, I mean, you've got clever ways of communicating that I think are really memorable. I want to just close with the topic that I think is important for anybody investing in this kind of technology for some hope of spectacle freedom with cataract surgery, and that's neural adaptation. Talk to me about how while the lens is adjusting to the patient's response to get used to that vision post-operatively?
Well, I always tell patients that the early part of the journey is to get them the image that they're looking for the rest of their life. And then after that, it's their brain that's adapting to their new optical system through a fancy word that we call neural adaptation. But we know from multiple studies in monovision that because of the difference in the refractive endpoint between the eyes, that neural adaptation takes a lot longer, and for a significant amount of patients, just doesn't happen. And then you need to somehow lessen the monofocal monovision. Whereas with blended vision, these subtle differences, and I'll go back to the example of, when we're fitting contact lenses, or we're, taking care of PRK or LASIK in a 42-year-old that is going to have just a ever so subtle amount of monovision, plano in one eye and minus 0.75 in the other. They just neural adapt so quickly. Whereas when you try to do a contact lens monovision or a PRK or a LASIK or a SMILE in a 62-year-old that wants to have that monovision, it's just not nearly as successful because of that separation. Neural adaptation just doesn't happen. And so with blended vision, with the LAL, that little a bit of difference in refractive outcome, plano in one eye, minus 0.75 to minus 1 in the other, with an aberration profile that's helping them at both distance and near. Another way to think about it is you're neural adapting to 20/20 in one eye at a distance and 20/25 at another eye at a distance. It's just so much easier to neural adapt, and there's not the dead spots, because remember, we have two eyes and we have three distances in general in this life: distance, computer, and cell phone. And so when you're doing monofocal monovision and you have two eyes that you're getting one focal point, you're missing one of those distances. Whereas when you're doing blended vision and you have two ranges that you're putting together to bring together all three of those distances, the neural adaptation is just so quick. I mean, I don't want to over emphasize this, but it's almost non-existent, because they just kind of flow into it because you're blending two ranges. So neural adaptation happens extremely quickly.
Well, I love your description of that, not only in how long it takes, normally, but also how the blended vision might actually assist or accelerate that if it needs to happen at all. Just final question, Vance, because I know how much you are into education of patients and their referring doctors and the patient's family. And you've told me before how important it is that every one of your patients understand this as an option. What do you say to doctors who are just who are offering it but aren't necessarily educating every one of their patients about it?
Well, for one, proper informed consent involves discussing options, risks, and benefits. And so in the options end of it, it's a requirement that this be discussed with every patient. So not only is it our job and part of the oath that we took to care for people, it's fun. I mean, it's fascinating to patients when they learn that all other implants are fully polymerized back at the company, and now we're going to put it in their eye, and these variables of where lens position is going to be and healing, that leads to a result that they're either going to need glasses, contact lenses, or their cornea lasered. And when they learn about that, this is similar material to what we've put into eyes for many years. It's just this, Nobel, prize winning, photochemists who figured out how to finalize that polymerization process in a patient's eye and use it to our advantage with very specific math that once healing is stabilized, we can adjust that implant to the power that's meant to them, the only implant that can be customized to them on Mother Earth. It literally fascinates them. And so it brings a lot of pride to your staff. It brings a lot of joy to you and your practice. It expands your practice. But wow, do your patients appreciate that you're practicing on the cutting edge?
Yeah, that's really, I'm glad you brought up the team part, because that's something that we see a lot, and you and I saw together, is how excited the team is when they start to see not only the education process, but they see those patients back and their outcomes. So, well, listen, Vance, it's always good to pull over for a minute and talk with you about the way you're using the world's best technology. So thank you for that. I miss you like crazy, and the team. Everybody who's watching right now, know that you can come and watch this video again later with your partners and staff. We think it's really good information that's vital to you continuing to learn how to adopt this technology. For this and more information, you can go to the healthcare providers section of the RxSight.com website. And again, we want to thank RxSight for sponsoring today's session with ophthalmology management. And we look forward to doing this again. Vance, thanks for being such a gracious educator with us again.
Thank you. Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
See ya.